Hi there again, everybody. Welcome back to Prestige Auctions. It's aftermath time once again, and here we are on the 7th of September already. Looking at yesterday's auction, which of course was the 6th. I woke up this morning with a bit of a cold, so I'll try and get myself through this. It was all that yapping that I did yesterday at the auction, but what an auction it was. When we look at an auction at the start of the week, we all sort of discuss as a team. Is it a good auction? Is it a bad auction? And everyone was a bit on the fence about this one. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was one of kind of the ones in the middle, which, to be fair, are my favourites. I'd rather have a very good general sale across the board rather than just one or two high items and then the rest being just boxes of assorted. And I think it's fair to say that in yesterday's auction, the boxes of assorted and things like that did struggle. There was no doubt about it. Although people do sort of look at this and think that lots of items didn't sell. But you wouldn't realise just how many people are sat at the end of the phone waiting, watching at home, that are already registered with Prestige, and then they ring up, I'll have that one, or they'll text and I'll have that one. Just while I was on my break, I see 4 or 5 texts come through saying, I'll have that one, please put that one down to me, and so on. So lots of the stuff does get picked up afterwards. However, when you're doing what we do, and I want to just put this out there before we start talking about yesterday's auction, about people understanding, because we do have got 1 or 2 people that have rang us up for clearances and said, I watched one of your videos, everything seems to sell at £4. Well, no, that's not how it is. Lots of stuff sells a hell of a lot more than that. But the thing is, when you get a company like us in to do a complete clearance, if you have a box of assorted which is very, very low value, and it only makes £4 and you end up walking away with £1 something even after auction fees, that would have been a lot better than paying to dispose of it. That's the way you've got to look at it. And then the nicer items, the higher value items, are the ones that are going to make you your money, pay for your clearance costs, and hopefully come out the other end making you something. So just always bear that in mind. Don't just always think, oh, it's just £4 lots. It's not like that at all. When I look at the figures after each sale and see how much we've done, it's certainly not £4 lots across the board. And anyway, any of you that understand the auction will know that anyway. Okay, so yesterday's auction, well, it was, like I say, it was a good mixed auction. It had a bit of everything, from vehicles. It had a little bit of jewellery, but not loads this week. There's a lot more of that next week. And lots of sort of reasonable furniture. We'd had 1 or 2 nice clearances. There was some nice garden items, some nice pots. 1 or 2 of them did some good money. So anyway, let's have a look at what there was. And it started off the usual thing, lanterns and stuff like that. These were making sort of 7, 8 and 9 quids and stuff like that. And of course, when we do the aftermath, of course, I want to try and give you some tips on what to look out for, to what to buy, to what to sell, to try and make some money. This was the first one that made a few quid. Lots of hands went up in the room when this was sold. This sort of figurine thing that it is. LED lights and stuff, they were selling okay, not a fortune. Napoleon hat, kids games, stuff like that. This was all cheap. These was 4, 5, 6, 7 quids. There were not loads of money. 1 or 2 of the binoculars was 4 quids, one was 15 quid, and so on. Again, you're looking at certain things in the auction that you can make money on if you've already got a buyer there, if you know somebody that's interested in that sort of thing. Now, when you look at this one here, this lot here, then this it was like a mixed box of dinosaurs and plastic toys. This stuff was making fair money this week. Sort of 10 quids a box, 12 quids a box, and so on. And it's the reason being is there's lots of content, lots of stuff that people can split up, make money on. And of course, the savvy people that want to buy something, let's say they see this doll here, this one there, and they want to buy that. Well, let's have a look. How much is the box going to cost me? 16 quid, something like that. Okay, so I'm paying 16 quid for the doll that I want. But then you sell all the rest for probably more than 16 quid. All of a sudden, you've got your item for free, and you've made a couple of quid as well. Or even if you didn't make any couple of quid, you could have got your item for free or lowered the price, which is whichever. It's certainly saving you money. So as we come down here, more boxes of toys, dolls and things like that, again, was all doing okay. But like I pointed out in making money with Prestige this week, there was certainly stuff there in those boxes that you could have made money on. The Chinese games all sold again. They were sort of £4 this time though. They seem to be a bit of a hard sell, those. These Paw Patrol things, they all struggled, absolutely struggled loads they did this time. And as we come down here, the marble balls and things were selling, and again, they were cheap. They were really cheap. So, again, if you had an idea of something you could do, garden ornament, maybe light them up inside, I don't know. There's so many things. Got to start thinking outside the box if you're going to start making money from auction. When it comes to here, this one there, that made a few quid, 20 odd quid, I think it was. Something a little bit different, not the sort of thing you see in the auction every week. When you come to this one here, I think this one made 40 or 50 quid. And that was heavy. That was a real heavy piece, that one. The hats and things, I thought they were quite cool, those really retro pans there. And I think they did 12 or 14 quid as well. So again, people were bidding. People were finding the items that they thought was worth a few quid. And stuff like this. Again, mixed boxes. Records were selling well again yesterday. Lots of bids for the records this week. There must have been some decent titles in there. That's all I can think. Good records find the way. CDs and things, again, sort of 14, 16 quid a box this week on CDs, which is okay, but still cheap. Okay, just bearing in mind, there's a lot of CDs in a banana box. So anyone that's thinking that's expensive, no, it's not. Not if they're good titles. You could have one CD in there that's worth 16 quid. As we came past the pine shells this week, there's bits and bobs of costume jewellery and watches and things. There was nothing, I would say, standout-ish this week. And but when we come onto the jewellery cabinet, we had some silver coins, some watches. The watches sold, and then some rosary beads and some more coins, some gold-plated bangles and things. To be fair, it wasn't bad. The silver coins, they kind of made the scrap money. There was a few bids for that one, though. The old railway keys there, quite collectible, those pieces. So, again, if you spot those around the charity shops or boot sales, might be worth chucking a few quid at those, because they can make some money. The sketchers, the old sketchers there, they made a few quid as well. As we come down here, General Electricals this week weren't making loads of money. There were some bargains to be had in terms of DVD players, bread makers, mixers, stuff like that. Some stuff that on other weeks would make lots and lots of money. So when you look at that sort of stuff, do your research, get your Google Lens out, get your eBay out, and start looking at what stuff's been sold for. As we came down here, the gold didn't sell this week, didn't make the reserves, because gold has rocketed in price again this week. So it's getting harder and harder to buy as jewellery, because ultimately people can just scrap it. So do take that into consideration. Was this the Ninja? Yeah, the Ninja. There was plenty of bids for that. Again, because there were a lot of money to buy. I think that made, I want to say it made 20 something quid, something like that. So again, if you're looking for one, it's cheap. Somebody bought Kevin the Carrot for the dog. There you go. I think it was Jenny that bought that. She's bought Kevin the Carrot for the dog to destroy. And then Chris sarcastically said that then you could use the inners for packaging. Waste not, want not. Various bits of hi-fi equipment and stuff didn't make much money. Stanley Matthews, I think he made about 14 quid, something like that, 14, 16 quid. That's a heavy thing, that was. Anyway, as you come down here, all of the JVC stuff, the JVC turntable, 30 odd quid, and then these bits here was doing like 6, 8, 10 quids each, all the JVC bits. Apparently that's aloe vera. I had it down as a cactus, but never mind, I was wrong as normal. As you come down here, more bits of electrical. The sherry barrel, that made a few quid. Not too much, enough money to make profit on it, I think, if you used to sell it into a vaster marketplace. And then as you come down here, more CDs. Heaters are still not selling. Don't know what it is recently with the auction room. I mean, to think about this, guys, right? Because a heater, when you go into a shop, is going to be 30 odd quid, I would have thought. I'm just guessing. 30, maybe even 40 quid. These halogen heaters, normal heaters and that, are not getting bids at £4, right? We're coming up to the cold part of the year. Surely people will be looking for these online, on Marketplace, as the weather starts to turn. So why not buy them now when it's cheap? Because I'll tell you what, another couple of months, they're not going to be 4 quid anymore. They're going to be 10 quids. They're going to be 12 quids. And this is the time to chuck your money into stuff, to invest your money into a little bit of space, a little bit of time. Of course, make sure they're working and everything. And then get them sold at the right time. Seasonal selling is a real thing, and you need to get involved with all of this stuff, and then you can make some money. As we came down here, we came down the front tables. Now we had a lot of boxes this week, which there was a lot of bids for, and there was these sort of things. We'd cleared a house in Cleethorpes that had a lot of sort of 1980s stuff in it and retro gear. So look at that there. Do you see that at the back there? That Walls old lid there, Walls Max, is it? Something or other. That looks a bit different. Point I'm making here, there was lots of interesting bits in the boxes. People were buying them because they were spotting things in there, because people were taking the time to look through the boxes. We tell you this every week. You must look through the boxes. You never know what you're going to find in them. As it came onto the small bits of furniture, did okay, no complaints from us as auctioneers there. Bits and bobs were selling. Mirrors like that were selling at half reasonable money. 16 quid, something like that. Still cheap for what you'd pay for it in the shops. There's the little fluffy stool that sold, and the other stools sold as well. So that was a bit of a surprise, that one there. I think that made 40 odd quid, 30, 40 quid, something like that. But is it a surprise? Let's think about this. Is that a surprise? Because it's a nice piece, and it would cost you a fortune. And especially if you was in a bigger auction room where they'd really, loaded it up, they would have charged a lot more, I'm sure. Anyway, more heaters, not selling. I think these first two didn't sell there. That one did. Lots of bids on that one. None on those ones. I don't know. I never can quite work it out. But as we got through the Hoovers, I've got a thing I need to ask, actually, because maybe you could leave something in the comments about this. Steam mops. We must have at least 1, 2, or sometimes even 3 steam mops every single week. Every house clearance we do seems to have a steam mop, but nobody ever wants to buy them. Were they a craze? Were they a big thing? Was it a great idea somebody had? Or was it just one of those gimmicky ideas that everyone just thought, oh, that sounds great, and then bought one and just chucked it under the stairs? I think that's probably edging more towards what the real issue is and why they don't sell in the auction. As we come down here, 1 or 2 of the better make Hoovers sold, vacuum cleaners and things. Then we got on to more of these bits. Lisa took over at this point as we went into the back room. I just point out that was relatively cheap as well, that sort of retro DJ turn, all with the foul speakers and things. So they was quite decent. Now, of course, Lisa was selling all this and I was out of the way, so I'm not going to try and comment on this sort of stuff. I know Lisa said she had quite a few not sold. I know all the teddies sold once again, which is always good. She then took over into the back room onto the tools, and the tool room was very, very busy this week. Lots and lots of stuff in the tool room. So there was lots of people. The auction room really, really filled up for the tool room, to be honest, this week. And it was one of those where you was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here in the tool room that people wanted. Even if it was just cases, it was tool sets, drills, and lots of it was selling. So Lisa sort of went through this. I'm not quite sure what she got for that. Of course, that's a very good make chainsaw, that by Still. Should have made a few quid. As we come down here, I think that one did a few quid as well, that strimmer, but it looked like new. And this is the great thing about an auction, guys. You can pick up stuff that's next to new, for next to nothing sometimes, because not all the bidders are always there. Some of the DeWalt stuff, some of this older DeWalt stuff now is starting to struggle a little bit. So don't get too hung up on buying DeWalt stuff, especially at boot sales and things. I was at the boot sale the other week when we did one. And there's people asking like 14s and 15 quids for older DeWalt bits. You can pick them up in the auction now at 4 quids. So if you are looking for the older stuff, there is a much cheaper way to buy it than looking into the marketplace and boot sales and things. Get yourself down to Prestige Auctions. Anyway, we then moved on to that little generator, little key start generator that made a few quid. It's again tidy, good condition. But the looks of it, whether it works okay, I have no idea, but it looks the part. And a lot of these things, even if I'll give you a great example. Somebody bought a petrol power washer from the auction, and of course they got it home. They paid 30 quid for it, 30 quid, something like that, 30, 40 quid. And it didn't work. And somebody maybe had put it in knowing it didn't work. I don't know, but I mean, this is auctions for you. So anyway, they put it in. Now this is like a £600 or £700 piece of kit that they bought. Took it off to get it repaired. Cost 35 quid to get it sorted. 35 quid. So all of a sudden, 75 quid for something that's worth hundreds of pounds. Just because something doesn't work doesn't mean it can't be mended. So always remember that. Don't just think, oh, buy that, it don't work. This one here, the metal planters and things, the older ones, £170 that one. These did make a few quid this week. So you had that one, then you had the ones without the stands, and I'm sure the family will be quite pleased with how they did in the auction, because they were making some fair money. There was lots of power washers in this week's sale as well, so there was plenty to pick from for those. As you come down here, balance bikes were making a few quid. I see, we never had these when we were kids, did we? This is teaching kids how to balance on the bike without actually having to worry about the pedals and things. Be right if we're going downhill. As you come down here, more bits and bobs. These things here, I mean, look how good a condition some of this stuff is, that blower. So condition is everything, especially when it comes to reselling. The better it looks, the easier it is to sell, which is why sometimes you can just clean things up, and you don't have to they don't have to be spotless, but if you clean things up, it's certainly better on the eye. And think about that when you're putting it into the auction as well. If you're putting stuff into the auction, make it look tidy, because if it looks scruffy, people will be put off automatically. As we came around here, we came up to sort of the end of the tool room. We had other things like the little generator. Sets of steps and things weren't making loads of money this week. So, there was bargains to be had there across the board. Now, if we look at that, I'll talk about, because the cars are on the end of the pictures, even though we sold them the car and trailer in the sale. We'll come to those and we'll talk about those at the end. Stuff like that cutlery set, lots of hands for that, 3 or 4 hands in the room for that one, and I think that ended up making 40 odd quid. People come ducking in and out of the bidding as well. So again, nice things. This one here, I think that did 100 odd quid, that there, which is an old sort of terracotta head, quite a nice look to it as well. As you come down here, we got onto the militaria bits and bobs. We're doing okay. The fish sold okay as well, the fish doorstop there, and then we got onto the military bits just after that. The RAF caps, £14-16 each. I'm not going to lie, I'm not quite sure whether that's good or not. That I thought that was cheap. The old Yorkshire thing there, now that's obviously come off something 1821. It's been preserved in that frame. Somebody bought that, 25 quid from what I remember for those pheasants or whatever they are. The old tin hat there, that didn't make a whole lot of money, and these did. So it just shows you what people are looking for. The old cat badges, they sold okay, lots of bids for those, and then I think this one here, the flying hat and the goggles, I think that made 60 odd quid from what I remember. So again, lots of various bits and bobs that was doing different kinds of money. Again, people doing research, that did okay, that made a few bob as well. I think I want to say 30-40 quid, that old bugle in a lovely old case as well. That one there, this was a little bit of a bargain, I thought, at 80 odd quid. You had the train set in there, all the old Trang stuff, you had the coach kits, you had loads of wagons, track. That was a good box full. 80 quid, fair money, I suppose, but profit to be made in that one. And as you come down here, even the piranha fish did a few quid. I think there was a few hands for that. I think that did 20-30 quid, if I remember rightly. Not that I know a lot about piranhas, but there you go. Stamp albums and things, we're doing okay. Lots of those in next week as well. Boxes of costume jewellery. We then got onto TVs, appliances and things like that. Stuff like that, that was relatively cheap. Quite nice. A quiet marketplace, but when you find the right person, you can sell those for a few quid. That there, Lisa was trying to buy that, got outbid, made 30 odd quid, that cube unit. Very handy though, very modern. Wardrobes didn't sell, there was a struggle. There was flat packs, one of those. It's it can be a struggle, but the drawers and things that matched it were all selling. So I think some of those was as low as 4 and 5 quid, and then some of them were as high as 20 and 25 quid. It all depends what people are looking for, I suppose. The inflatable pop-out bed there, that made 32 quid, something like that, which was okay. As we come down here, more bits and bobs of furniture. The parrot cage started off slow, then there was about 3 or 4 arms went up for that, so that made a few quid. But think how much they had to buy. They're a load of money. The Mosaic top table there, that sold okay, as did the Treadle Singer sewing machine. I think Chris ended up buying that one. And then the Fishman table there. Why is it the Fishman? Well, you've heard of the Mouseman, Robert Thompson and so on. Well, this was the Fishman. He carved a little fish into his stuff. I mean, that made about £120, 120, 125 quid, something like that. So, you know, fair money for that piece. Not as popular, of course, as the Mouseman. Anyway, we then went through sort of the last sets of drawers. A few hands for this one. Quite a nice table. I think there was a telephone bidder for this as well. And, you know, sort of nice cherub, and then the onyx top. Quite a nice piece indeed. And then we came up towards the end of the sale, or the shelving unit there sold. And then we got towards the end of the sale. Well, we actually sold these actually after the tool room. But this was the Brenda Up box trailer. £520, I think. 520, 530, something like that. Cheap money for that, but had its few issues. Needs a lens there, needs a new trailer board, needs a little bit of a tidy up, but a good, nice item. Would have been well over £1,000 quid, 1,200, 1,400 quid second hand online. There can be thousands of pounds to buy, so somebody got a bargain there. And then this one, a little bit of a surprise to me, to be fair. This one, car, when you actually read the documents online, said it'd done 300,000 miles, but last year it did have a new engine put in it. There was receipts to back that up and so on. So it was being sold as what it was, and it ended up making £1,300. So, but, you know, 1,300 quid, it's a tidy car, it's automatic. When I drove it round, it seemed okay. But I don't know a lot about cars other than driving them. That's it. So there you go, everybody. It was another good week at Prestige Auctions. And lots of bidding going on. Lots of people left commissions and so on. What we're doing this week? Well, we've got a lot of jewellery in this week's sale. We've done a clearance this last week of a lovely house in Grimsby. There's another car in this week's auction. In fact, if you look at that picture there... I'm not sure you can see it. Oh, you can't see it on that one. Oh, maybe if I do that, you might be able to see it. No, you can't. I can see it on my picture, but you can't see it on yours. There's another car in next week's auction that has come from a property we've cleared. There's also quite a bit of jewellery come out of that one as well, both costume and, you know, sort of gold and, well, mainly gold, not much silver, to be fair. There's also some really nice bits and bobs of furniture, lots of garden tools, and of course there'll be the usual amount of stuff coming in from privates. So thank you everybody once again, as always, for tuning in and supporting our small family run business in Grimsby. And also just a reminder, because this is so important to us, that when you are watching these on YouTube, that you do hit that subscribe button and leave a comment and a thumbs up, because all these help the algorithm and make our channel more popular. We love having you all tune in every week. We love your comments. We reply to them as many as we can. So thanks everybody. Have a great week. Go and do some buying and selling. Get into the swing of things. Make yourself a few quid. It's our task this winter to get as many people buying and selling as possible. As we reach these torrid times where money's getting tighter, then there are ways that you can help yourself out. Thanks ever so much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you all very soon at the auction.